Okay. Mishnah Hay states, Hamocher Zesav La'etzim. Somebody who sells his olive trees to use for firewood. So what's this doing here in the middle of a Metziach? It's a continuation really of Mishnah Beis, the second Mishnah in the parak, which dealt with some situations where one says this is the thing and one says this is the thing. We say, okay, we divide it. So this Mishnah sort of continues in that vein, as we shall see. So why are you selling your fruit trees for firewood? It really, the Torah says you're not supposed to destroy fruit trees. So what's going on here? So there are exceptions. There are cases when one can destroy a fruit tree. In such a case here, the olive trees are producing such a poor yield. They're such lousy fruit trees that you're allowed to use them for firewood, because it's not really, you don't call that a fruit tree anymore when it's doing such a poor job of producing fruit. However, so you sold the guy the trees, not your land, but you sold him the trees. Go ahead, come cut the firewood. However, the guy didn't come right away, and the olive trees produced some oil. So they, not a lot, right? They produced less than a revius in regards to a sa'ah. There's two different ways to understand what this means. And it could be a revius is like revius log. So you're talking about like you produce basically like 4 ounces of oil for a saw for a large portion of olives. It could also mean that it produced revius of a kav. It reduced a few liters worth of oil based on the amount of planting that you would do for a barley field for a saw. So it's like a 50 by 50, so 2,500 square amos field produces, this much oil or whatever. So they got all these trees and you're producing, almost nothing. So basically it produces less than that. So Ze Omar Zeisi Gidlu, Ze Omar Artzi Gidla. I'm sorry, hold on. Hari Elu Shabal Zaisim. Right, it produces less than that, so it belongs to the owner of the olives, meaning in this case the owner of the olive trees, the buyer. The buyer gets to keep that small amount. We assume that the owner, because he was selling, he knew that he's not getting any oil out of these trees. That's why he sold them for firewood. So a little bit of oil comes out before the guy comes to cut it down. So then we assume the owner just, whatever, keep it. It's nothing. That's the assumption. And therefore it belongs to the guy who bought the trees. However, Asur Revius Lasa, if it did produce at least this amount, so produce this small amount, Ze Omer Zeise Gidlu, Ze Omer Artzi Gidla, one of them says, hey, it was my olive trees that produced this oil. And the other guy says, no, it's my land, right? Because the olive trees are sitting in the ground, in my ground. My ground gave it the sustenance, or gave it its fortification. So yachloku, they divide it. This is not like the previous Mishnayos where we said it was really the opinion of Sumcha. Sumcha says that if you have a situation which is doubtful, a financial situation, does it belong to this one? Does it not belong to this one? We don't know. Each one says it belongs to them. We don't have a raya brewer. We don't have a proof one way or the other. We sort of are not sure. It's Maman Hamutol Basafik. So according to Sumcha says in such a case you divide it. We really paskin, we hold like the Chachamim, the rabbis who say it's a motzi mechavel of a raya, you have to bring a proof. Whoever's holding on to it is the one who's holding on. But this is not that situation. In this case, we're not arguing. It's not a doubtful. Meaning they're both making a claim, but their claim is both true, right? It's true that the trees produced some of it and the ground produced some of it, and it's a partnership. Therefore, there's no doubt here. We're just saying, okay, they both claim they want a portion of this olive. They both have this olive oil. They both have a right to it. Therefore, you go ahead, divide it. In different case, Shataf Nahar Zeisav Unusan Lasoch Sdei Chavero. River came along and ripped up the olive trees out of your field and put it in somebody else's field. And now it's sitting there. And the guy in the other field says, doesn't complain about it. He says, okay, I'll keep it. Ze Omer Zeise Gidlu, V'ze Omer Artzi Gidla. And this one says, it's my olive trees that, and then they're sitting there and then they're producing. So they're producing olives. So the first guy says, hey, these are my trees. My trees are growing these olives, and therefore I should get it. V'zeh Omer Arti Gidla, and the second one says, hey, this is my ground that they're sitting in, and therefore I have rights to it. So again, Yachloku, they will divide the profits of the oil that come out of these trees. There's actually interesting takana that the Chacham made in such a case. When you say, what, the first guy should say, hey, my trees are in your land. I want them back. I'm going to take them back and plant them in my own land. And they said, no can do. Because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, because we want Eretz Yisrael to be, we want trees, right? I think in the 20th century, Israel was the only country in the world that had net positive gain on trees for the 100 years between 1900 and 2000.
That's only because of Sid Rifkin.
Right. This is JNF. So you want to have trees in Eretz Yisrael. So we figured, look, the first guy planted olive trees already, so he lost them. What's he going to do? He's going to plant new ones, right? He wants olive trees. The second guy, who knows what he's going to do? He may or may not. So we're not going to take him away from the first guy. So the second guy gets to hold on to them. The first guy will go back and replant them. But in this case, in terms of the oil, they can both argue that they both had a portion, and therefore the halacha is they can divide it.